Hey guys, welcome to Life of Dmitri.ruwan. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you are instantly notified when I post new videos. So it has been a few months since I've started this YouTube channel, and I've, tried to find my footing in the sense of the type of content that I put out there for all of you to see. Now, predominantly when I started this channel, it was because of the fact that all of us are just so busy, whether you're working or going to high school or, even whether you're on vacation. I think we just get so many notifications and so many emails and so many texts and messages from friends and family that, we just don't necessarily have the time to read each and every blog post as much as we used to. For those of you that know me, I did have a blog on blogger.com before called Love DMI, and it corresponded with my label at the time, which was also called DMI. And I used to get so many viewers on that blog, primarily because aside from the fashion and the looks and everything that I had the time to do, because I was in high school and university, and I would go out for all these events and parties and blah blah blah, and I found the time, and now I think back and think, oh my god, like, how did I have all the time? But I was young, and I would just write from the heart, and I would write about my experiences and my emotions and my feelings, and I never second guessed myself. And I think that's what you are in some instances trained to do when you grow up, or when you're growing up, or when you're growing older, and people tell you have to think before you speak or think before you act. And I, for the most part, I do agree with that sentence. I do think in most situations, 99% of the time, you would benefit from thinking before you act on something, act on an emotion, or act on a lead, or act on anything you're feeling. But I think in certain situations, in certain special circumstances, you could truly benefit from not, and just speaking your truth and speaking your mind, because people aren't mind readers, and people are never going to know how you feel unless you show them or you tell them. So that being said, when I started this YouTube channel, I did want to show you guys a little bit into the life of a fashion designer, but I don't think I've done that. I think I've been really superficial and pretentious and all of the things that, the caption for my previous blog was Life of a Middle Class Fashionista. And that's true, because I am a middle class fashionista. I don't like defining people based on where they stand economically, if that makes sense. And I don't want to call myself, or any kind of, I don't want to label me for the rest of my life as I'm a middle class person. I just think that, that's where I am right now. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But I had so many hits and links to that blog, and now it's like my WordPress blog. I think WordPress is a bit of a scam. I think if you pay to upgrade your website and have your own domain, I'll probably get the hits that I did in my previous blog, but right now it's not, which is why I've moved to YouTube. And my YouTube's going slow, but honestly, I'm not doing it. I would like it if I reached a wider audience, because it means I'm getting my message and my view on life across. But at the same time, I'm not doing it for the views. I think being able to have this dialogue, and when I used to have my blog and now having this vlog, truly helps me. It's like my online therapy, and for those of you that don't know me personally, I've been looking for a job for a little over a year now, and it's primarily because a lot of the jobs in Dubai at the moment are not paying what I used to earn, or they have, there is a little bit of a bias here. I'm not going to lie. There is a bias for people who are, Caucasian. But I think that any business that wants longevity looks for people's talent as opposed to the color of their skin. But I think that's a topic for another day. I don't want to go too deep into that right now. But the reason I labeled this video 13 Reasons is because I just started watching season 2 of the famous Netflix show 13 Reasons Why. I would say I'm going to insert a clip, but I'm using a really old version of Windows Live Movie Maker, so I don't think that's possible. I think, when I started watching the first episode, I stopped it halfway through because I was like, this show is like, I watched the first season and I was like, okay, but I started the second one and I was like, oh my god, like, ugh, it just has this kind of really, it has a weight, and I don't necessarily know, for somebody like me who wants to kind of celebrate the fantasy in life, but I do, I do push myself to watch a lot of shows, and once I got through the first episode of the second season, I was so grateful that I watched this show. Primarily because it targets a very real epidemic that we have in the world right now. A culture of abuse and bullying and belittling and, just continuing the circle of hate in youth culture. And in fact, that leads on to create adults that have a variety of psychological issues that go on to hurt people based on their childhood traumas. Now, before I go deeper into this topic of discussion, I have to say I'm sorry if I misled people, but this is the reason I am doing this video now is because I want to have a more real dialogue with you guys, and I don't want to be talking about my hair or fashion is a very big part of my life, but it also, I have a lot more to contribute as a person, and my apologies if that never came across in my channel before, because I think a recent friend told me that, the blog, my previous blog was very deep and very real, and my latest vlogs were not, and I don't want to come across as the type of person who's materialistic. I love my things, but I love good people more, and I value them even more. So let's talk about my personal experience. Or I don't even know where to begin, but, and to be fair to all of you, I don't think I'm really ready to go too deep into the actual source of what this video is about, but I think as an Asian community, as South Asian, as most of you know, I am Sri Lankan, but I've lived in Dubai my whole life, and I'm currently in Dubai as well. And in Dubai, suicide is illegal. Yeah, it is illegal because it goes against the religious beliefs of the country, and if you do try to commit suicide and you fail, you will be arrested and deported. That is the law, and as with any country, I think you have to try your best to respect those laws. Though if you are clinically depressed or have had severe psychological trauma, then I personally cannot understand how that law is justified, but that is the law. And whereas in Sri Lanka, it's treated like any other country. You will be taken to a hospital and given the medical care you need. So it's like you're caught in between two worlds, you know. And in one way, people are almost there are still a lot of um, I don't think it's as high as the States or anywhere else in the world, but there are suicides you hear about on and off, but the media is very heavily monitored, so you know, you hear only about the cases that you kind of are supposed to hear about, if that makes sense. But what I do want to say is when I was watching 13 Reasons Why, the second season, the reason that I pushed where I said it was difficult for me to watch the second season was because watching it, watching the second season, I went into it with a completely different mindset. You know, there are certain elements, I think as millennials, I don't think I'm a millennial, I'm way too old, but I think there are certain elements in characters that you instantly recognize about yourself, and you feel like, I've been there. All of us have been there. And if you haven't been in that particular situation, or nothing from the show touched you on a personal level, then I am very happy for you, and you have avoided the very ugly side of life. But I always say, when you go through something, you arrive on the other side even stronger. So for me, I've always been somebody who's very vocal about how I feel, and my thoughts on specific issues, and my thoughts on other people, and you know, growing up, it's gotten me into a lot of fights, primarily with my family and my extended family, because in Asian culture, and I'm going to say South Asian just to specify, but South Asian culture is very, very different. We, you know, indifferent in the sense that there are certain things, I suppose, and there are so many similarities in the differences between other cultures as well. So I probably shouldn't alienate my culture as is, but I'm speaking about my experience. So for the sake of discussion, I will refer to it as South Asian. There are certain things you don't talk about, and there are certain things that you are forbidden from even suspecting other people of doing. You are, you know, it's like everybody knows this man this man or woman has a problem, and nobody calls them out on it, because everybody values their families so much more, and everybody values the image of what a perfect family is, and a perfect family does not include anybody who could hurt or harm anybody else. Now, for me, being just very open about who I am as a person from a very young age, I've had to fight a lot internally, you know, with my family as well, to be who I am. And I think as parents, or as modern parents, if you accept your child for who they are, that's a wonderful thing to do. And you are allowed to, all of you in your comments or your feedback, allowed to disagree, but you're not going to get a trophy for it, because you didn't do your child a favor. As human beings, you should accept your children for who they are without question, without thought. And I don't think I'm asking parents out there for too much. You do not deserve a trophy for accepting your child because they are beautiful regardless of, you know, their preferences, because they are who they are. And anyway, while I did have a rocky start with all of that, I want to talk about my schooling and just growing up in Dubai. You know, it's very different from the States, and to a certain degree I am glad that it is that way. You know, I went to an all-boys school, and I remember meeting one of my friends who was dating this guy, and he said like, "Oh, like Dimitri had such a tough time in school," and I was thinking, did I? Because all I remember was being super like, just living my best life and just bouncing around. Well, to a certain extent, there were a lot of tough periods going to school, just because I've never tried to hide who I am, and a lot of people saw me for me, but a lot of people also tried to take advantage of that fact. And when you're a teenager, everything affects you tenfold. You are just so much more susceptible to comments and rumors, and susceptible to hurt because of comments and rumors and the actions of other teenagers. And why I said Dubai and the difference between Dubai and the States is, if you get into an issue, there will be disciplinary action taken against you. You will be expelled. You not just expelled, you will be taken out, and because nobody is really given citizenship here, in worst case scenario, you will be deported back to your own country. And literally, no, I don't think a lot of people, or be jailed, or worse, or be given a severe, depending on where you're from. Because if your battle is with, another local person, it's different. I can't really speak as for the accuracy of the justice system, but all I can say is there have never been any cases of gun violence in Dubai. There have never been any bomb threats in universities and schools in Dubai, because the security level is so high, and there are certain things that are just not permitted, and a part of me thinks that that's a good thing. It's probably a good thing that half of these things weren't permitted, because if they were, you'd have what's going on in the States right now. Like, it's shocking how much gun violence doesn't even cause you to blink an eye. Another suicide bomber walks into a club and blows it up, or a teenager walks into a club, not even a suicide bomber, what am I saying, like somebody walks into a club and blows it up, and we don't even blink an eye anymore, because we're so numb to what's happening. And by that comparison, living in Dubai is so safe, because we don't have those kind of threats here. Touch wood, we don't, because there's a great security force, and I suppose they are doing a lot of things right by that logic. So they deserve a clap for that. But my experience is that I say recently, but it was quite some time ago. I had an experience in my life that was not the best, and I was working at the time, and when I came back from work, when I came back from holiday, I was just constantly making mistakes at work, and I just couldn't concentrate and do anything the way I used to. And I realized, because what had happened to me was affecting me in so many ways. And when I did speak out about it, obviously I spoke to my close friends about it, but when I did speak out about this to somebody who could have, really helped me, that person let me down. That person let me down so much, and by doing that, they allowed this predator to continue on doing whatever it is this person is doing with their lives. And what was very difficult for me to get past and get through is that somebody would actively choose to do nothing because of the stigma associated with that kind of scenario. Um, I read a statistic online that 1 in every 6 men are abused, and nobody speaks up about it. Nobody says it because for us as men, regardless of sexual orientation, it's almost non-existent. It is something that does not happen. It is almost like blink, done. Like, you are trained to think that men, you are like the provider, you are the stronger person, you are all of these things, all this old ideologies that are put onto you. So when it happens, your mind is automatically trained to block whatever happens, and a part of you is trained to feel like you are a weaker person if you speak up about it. But the reality is, you are so strong, and you don't know it. So this person, who was supposed to help me, who was supposed to be my caretaker and my guardian, basically let me down. And I don't think I will ever truly forgive this person for what they've done. But I can't blame one person for occurrences in my life. But if my child came to me tomorrow and said, "This has happened to me," I would scorch the earth with my rage, and I would make sure the people responsible felt that rage, because no one is allowed to touch my child. But unfortunately, life isn't perfect, and people aren't perfect, and I'm not perfect. As I was reminded, when I sought help, I was reminded that I wasn't a perfect child. I was reminded that nothing really happened to me, because I was old enough to fend off my attacker, and yeah. I think what hit me most was that nothing really happened to me, because I know what it felt like to be in that situation, and I know the after effects of that situation, which is that I felt depressed. I receded into myself. I had suicidal thoughts, which is possibly a topic for another day, but very much links into the topic of this video. And I feel like everything in life is kind of has to a certain degree closed in on me, where there are certain things that I wish were going better in terms of my career, in terms of my love life, in terms of my personal finances, in terms of my brand, and there are a lot of things that I wish were going better but aren't. And to have to deal with that mentally and feel like nobody's acknowledging, or nobody had acknowledged up until that point, the pain that I felt was terrible. And regardless of what any online article or literature or anything tells you, you classify what abuse is. Anyone laying their hands on you without your consent is abuse. And I hope all of you out there know that. And I hope that this video has given you some insight into knowing that you are not the only person out there dealing with this kind of situation. I'm sure all of you know that you aren't. But sometimes it's funny, and it's like that thing we constantly see being shared on Facebook. It's like social media is just keeping us further apart, and I don't want that to happen. I sometimes go through my Facebook friends and people I don't really, know and I say hi, and I message them because I think social media has allowed us to be even closer to one another. Well, at the same time, I see so many hypocrites online sharing stories about abuse and how we should stand up, and yet when they're faced with the issue, nothing is truly done. I personally do not, I would never let somebody feel like abuse of any form is okay. I will fight because I am a fighter, and I will fight to live my best life and fight to live the life that I know that I'm capable of living, and I will do that till the very end. But I wanted to talk about this video in correlation to what's going on in my life, and the show, primarily because the show prompted me more so than I already had the inclination to do, to talk about my experience and hopefully get the message across that you always have people to talk to. You always have somebody who will understand. And believe me, whether you think, if you think that it hasn't happened to somebody you know, you're misinformed, because it has. And it's something that's very real, this culture of abuse that's happening. And it's most often from people we know, or the people that are closest to us. And I would advise all of you to speak to a friend or a counselor. If you have access to a therapist, speak to them whenever you have feelings of depression or anxiety or any difficulty just coping with day-to-day life. Because I know that the way I'm trained right now, I've felt that going to a therapist is more money. And I feel like a part of me was weak enough already to not be able to cope with the occurrence that happened in my life. And if I seek out any help right now, that it's just stupid. But it's not. And I personally like to delve deeper into myself and understand my emotions and deal with them. But I do think that sometimes you benefit from speaking to somebody who can help you medically or clinically, if that's the correct term. So this video is, as I mentioned from the start, a bit more personal, and I just really went in deep there because you're not alone. And I don't have a great audience watching my videos, but for whoever watches this, and if you're in Dubai or anywhere else in the world, you are always welcome to message me, call me, Skype me. I will leave all my details in my bio, because social media is supposed to be bringing us together, and it is not supposed to be creating this vicious community of bullies and people who think that getting away with doing the wrong thing is completely fine. I think we have a duty as people to fight the bad in this world. I think we have all the tools, and yet we just choose not to use them. I think it is so important to fight for the people you love and show the people you love that you care about them. And sometimes the only way you can do that is by taking action. And I want you to know that if your child or somebody you know is going through the same thing, then you need to take some sort of action. Because by not taking any action, you are telling that person that it's okay, and that whatever happened to them is fine. And it's not, because it will never go away. That feeling will never go away, and most people struggle with it much later on in their life. So, as I mentioned, I hope you guys truly talk to people and are living beautiful, happy lives and are doing your best every day to combat negativity and pain and everything else that is inflicted on us in this modern day and age, because it's very difficult sometimes to believe that it gets better when the right now is so painful and so much more excruciating than you ever thought it could be. But life does get better, and as I've been saying to multiple people this week, that's what makes the rewards even sweeter. So push yourself as much as you can. Speak to the people in your life. Trust the people in your life. Let them love you, because if you give them a chance, they will. Believe in the power of you. Believe in your capabilities and your beauty. Believe in the beauty of your soul. And anyone who doesn't see any of those things will never know how beautiful it is to know you as a person and truly love you as a person. Thank you guys for watching this video.